What's up, everybody? Welcome to another exciting episode of Full Circle. I'm your host, as always, Older Harmon Jr. Please feel free to find me at Older Harmon Jr. on all your favorite social media, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. I have a Facebook, but I'm not going to add you, and all that other fun stuff. And this week, I have a very special guest because not only did he help me start this year, he is going to close out the year of Full Circle. We have the man, the myth, the legend, Josh Boykins. Actually, it's Boykin because I was going to put that S there, correcting myself.
I get that a lot. It's fine. It's fine.
How
It's
you
like
doing
there's
today,
there's
sir?
just a bunch of us. I'm doing okay. It's been I'd say all things considered, being able to make it here at the end of the year and have a roof over my head, food on the table, and to be able to enjoy life with people I care about. I'm gonna call that great.
Oh yeah, I feel you, man. Every year, people always say things like, we made it to the end of the year, and it's usually, a joking matter of like all the trials and tribulations. But this year, no, everyone listening, everyone has been a part of this, first time listeners, long time listeners, we have made it. And I sincerely mean that we have made it through a trying year. Besides the obvious death that many people had to face, unfortunately, we all know someone who's probably passed at this point. Just financial ruin, chaos in our streets, at least here in America, worldwide protests, an election year that will literally probably go down in history books. I'll tell my grandchildren about it. We have made it, people. We are still here. We are still standing. And to quote Dave Chappelle's Saturday Night Live stand up, if you're still shaking, come and get those Negro lessons, and we'll teach you how to get through this. But Josh, before we get into the show today, once again, in case they don't know, who are you and what do you do? Tell the people out there.
Yeah, so my name is Josh. I run a site called IntelliGame, really a community where we come together, we make connections between games and real world stuff. So you can find more about IntelliGame over at intelligame.us. You can follow on social media or on Twitch at IntelliGameUs. I'm kind of all over the place. You can follow me personally on Twitter at Wallstormer, though I really don't like Twitter and don't like being there. So you're not going to see me post a lot of content there, but when updates do show up, there's stuff there. There's also a newsletter. How do you subscribe to the newsletter? I think you can find it on my website at joshboykin.com. I think that's correct. It will be correct by the time you listen to this podcast.
Josh, I love that we don't do a Discord live chat during this show. I played around with that we might later.
Yeah.
But it was almost like if someone asked you that in real time, like there's a news, how do you describe to boy?
Yeah,
it's like Celeste underscore 24 cool guy working on that.
Cool guy 87. Like, it's weird. Trying to keep up with stuff, and the change in technology and trying to make the presentation better. Look at the way that this has come full circle.
Yeah, there you go.
You got the video, getting all fancy. I'm gonna have to try to keep up.
I know, trying. What a lot of people don't understand about the realm that we're in. In games journalism, games media, game entertainment, whatever however you want to phrase it, is that a lot of us here, when you're not with a big team, you are the big team. Yeah. And so a lot of moving parts, like whereas someone job would be make the newsletter, is like I gotta make the newsletter, the show, the advertisement, the tweets. And so I was like, I always respect people who do this because I know it. And a lot of people assume, which I always think is funny, that you're making buku money. Like when you're consistent, people just think they're like, oh man, how much you get paid for
made
that?
It.
Yeah, it's like, oh boy, paid. It's always weird because I had someone literally last week ask me, they're like, so how much do you make from YouTube? What's it like being a YouTuber? And I was like, I don't consider myself a YouTuber. And they're like,
bag
do you have videos on YouTube, right? I'm like, I mean, yes, they exist in a regular fashion, but
yeah, the bag is steadily elusive. It is. I don't know how folks do it. I have a lot of respect for people who are making it. But yeah, that's not. I can nearly promise you that most of the creators out there, especially folks who are doing like covering indie content or who are out there and grinding solo, not there's something else supplementing that work.
Yeah, like even when I get like the greatest free item I ever received is a PC.
Oh, nice.
Thank you, Cyberware. And it's cool. That's my big ticket item. But I always tell people, are like, oh, so that happens. I'm like, no. And even if I subtract the price from that, it's like, oh no,
yeah,
nah, that's
if you were getting paid per hour, you're still a little rough. It's a little rough for all of us.
Okay, but people, thank you. Last show of the season. Season 3 is coming to a close. We're going to be starting season 4 after the first. We're going to start big with a big guest. And today we're going to be a little atypical. Normally we have some weekly topics, but me and Josh are going to be reflecting on the year 2020 as in, best games, best moments, all that stuff. It's really just going to be a 2020 reflection more than anything. And after we reflect on, our games and stuff and how we disagree, we are going to really take a deep dive in what it has been like for Black creators in the gaming space in 2020. And yes, I know that topic may scare some of y'all. Y'all might run, but hey, you've listened to the show before, and we're just gonna dive into it, and we're gonna take a hard look at the rise and what I'm gonna just go ahead and call it now, the fall of support for Black creators in the gaming space. And no, this is not to attack the industry or the culture at large. It is just going to be a literal critical analysis of events that have transpired and the goods, the bads, the ups and the downs, and all that stuff in between. But before we get into that matter, we are going to start with just all the stuff we enjoyed about 2020. And that's going to obviously be the games. And I'm going to say this, people are going to think this is a critical take, but I've looked at so many top 10 lists and seen about literally the same 5 games followed by games that just happen to have came out in the last month. And I'm just like, I can personally say I do not have 10 top 10 games. I have maybe like 5, 6.
Okay.
And I'm not trying to say 2020 didn't have great games. It's just like, I'm just not going to put 10 of the 15 games I completed in the year on the list. like my list just isn't filled out. It's just not. What about you, Josh?
I think 2020 was one of the best years for games in a long time. But I also think that part of my stipulation on that is that I play a lot of indie games, and this was an amazing year for indie games. Like, tons of stuff coming out, and like the games that I'm writing, anytime you see me look down, I'm like, oh, that was another name of a game that I should remember. Like, not only were there tons of games that came out this year, but a lot of them were really good. Like, we're not talking Wii era shovelware, right? Like, everybody's trying to catch the whatever. It's just, I don't know. I thought that there were, I just keep writing these down, and I'm not going to spoil them, but like, it's just
I can respect it. I can, because I didn't play Spiritfarer, and everyone keeps telling me I need to play it, and I have not. Yep. So I can respect. There's probably some games under the radar I just hadn't touched.
The difficult thing is that like it is one thing when it was like back when the Wii came out, right? And you had some games that were good and most games that were trash, just like people who were trying to cash in on everybody buying this console, right? And so they'd make their collection of mini games where you throw a frisbee or something, right? And so I don't need to pay attention to a bunch of these games. But now you've got the Switch, which has been an amazing console, particularly for indie developers to be able to get circulation. You've got plenty more traffic on PC than you did before. Obviously, the pandemic has meant that more people are getting into gaming as a whole. Plus, you've got services like Xbox Game Pass, Apple Arcade, Humble Bundle, PlayStation, obviously, PlayStation Plus, that kind of thing. Like, there are so many different ways that people are able to take part in games and like to be able to play them when they're new and exciting. It's been such a trip. I think that honestly, the part that's been difficult for me is trying to figure out how do you get people to pay attention to any one game. So I feel like when folks are talking about like when you're talking about those last 5 games, right, that show up on the list, a lot of those game of the year contenders are games from October, November, right? Because our memories only stretch so far. But like I feel like if I sat down and looked at like these are the games that came out in March, these are the games that came out in April, and I'd be like, oh, whoa, like there was some really good stuff there. I just also happened to be dealing with the onset of a global pandemic and trying to figure out how to deal with that, never mind June. So it's real interesting to try and figure some of that stuff out.
And to your credit, but let me say, I'm not calling 2020 a bad game year.
I might call it a bad year for some other reasons.
But it's just like, man, we don't literally. If you look at a top 5 game list, this is what you're gonna see. You're gonna see Miles Morales, Spider-Man, Last of Us Part 2, Hades, which is not on my game. It's just not. I am not a fan of.
I heard you were like Hades, just the scorn in there.
You're gonna see Animal Crossing.
You just jumped on people's hate list. They're gonna sick their Greek gods after you.
Yeah. Wait, what was that? Animal Crossing. They're gonna see Final Fantasy 7.
Sure.
And those are the
Ghost of Tsushima.
Boom, 6.
Yeah.
And then then the last 4 spots you get a little variety.
Mm-hmm.
Shame on everyone who doesn't put Ori and the Will of the Wisps on their list.
See, that was a March. That was a March game.
Shame.
That was a March game.
No, it's like because people are like Ori. I'm like, no, shame. And first of all, shout out to the Game Awards. No shade on the Game Awards. The second they put Doom Eternal on that list, I was like, all right, I'm mad. Because I was like, these other games, Last of Us Part 2, yeah. Hades, it was the It game, yeah. Animal Crossing, yeah. And then Ghost of Tsushima. Was Ghost of Tsushima on there? I don't remember.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
And then it was like Doom Eternal. I'm just like, I don't know about that one, fam.
There were a couple of games that I got selected for Game Awards where I was like, okay. But I also will recognize that like I heard people tell me that Doom Eternal was good. People told me that the original Doom was good. I have not prioritized playing either of those. I'm sure that they're great games, and for people who they work for, it's real solid. Yeah. I like games that are more mechanic savvy, but I really focus on narrative and storyline, and also metal is not it's not music I enjoy. And I am increasingly finding that if the soundtrack to a game is not something I'm vibing with, the rest of the game it struggles. Monster Sanctuary just came out recently, and it's kind of a hybrid of a Metroidvania and like Pokemon, and it's real cool, but the soundtrack is a little rough, and it was just hard for me. So anyway, point of the story is I understand the struggle. I get where you're coming from there. And
if you look at the AAA release calendar this year, like I found it hard to play other games just because the way AAA is released this year, like you said, October to now, it was just kind of like if you got behind on anything, it was already too late.
Yeah.
This is how crazy this is. Miles Morales is what, a 10-hour game, I think, approximately. Yeah. And that's probably being a little generous, and I still haven't beat it.
See, I actually, we're going to end up having to talk about Miles Morales. You can bring it up whenever you want to, because we have different opinions about.
All right. Look, here we go. I'll give you my top 5. Odell's top 5. Yes, I have not played Spiritfarer and most indies because I just haven't. I'm sorry. Time has escaped me. But Final Fantasy VII Remake is coming in at number 1. Done.
Okay. Yep.
It was like, and the more I think about it, and I'm just like, damn, And the reason I could easily give it was a game I thought I really wasn't gonna like, and then just kind of truly loved, minus Chapter 9.
Okay.
So Final Fantasy VII Remake. And then I'm gonna throw these next games are just in any order. Animal Crossing. Okay. I am not a Farmville Sim Life type of guy. I do not like those games. They're not bad games. They're just not for me. The daily grind. And it was like Animal Crossing made me put in Pokemon hours into it. And that's that's something to be said. Like, I knew I was gonna get tired of it eventually. But my God, I played that game for a few months.
Wow.
So kudos to Animal Crossing. I kind of want to include Persona 5 Royal in there, but I'm not because that was I'm recovering from COVID game. And so I just had a lot of time to kill. And that is a game you can do that in.
Yeah.
I platinumed it. So I can comfortably say good game, not the best.
Yeah.
And if you want to come at me, man, let me see your hour count. Because I could go toe to toe with you. I feel like after that, but I will include Crash 4. A lot of people hear about Crash 4.
Interesting.
Yeah, Crash 4. I feel like deserved more love than it got. I'm not sure how many people played it, but that was a really well done game. Okay. So Crash 4, Ori and Will of the Wisp. That's my number 2, actually. That may be my number 1. I don't know. Ori and the Will of the Wisp was phenomenal. The only really indie game I played, honestly. If you want to consider Hades an indie game, then those are the only 2 this year. It was a bad indie year for Odell.
Man, you missed out.
Yeah, and then Spiritfarer is number 1 because everyone keeps telling me to play that. And then okay, Miles Morales. Sorry, not on the list. I didn't play Assassin's Creed. I didn't play Watch Dogs because I was just like, there's only so many hours in the day. Currently playing through Cyberpunk, and I can say the story is really cool.
Interesting.
Sans everything else. It's not on the list. It's just a cool game. I just want to give it some love because I am enjoying it when the game doesn't crash every 30 minutes. But other than that, it's cool. And that's my list. There's some games I beat, like Origami King, not on the list. Okay. I haven't beat Ghost of Tsushima. I want to put it on the list, but my personal gamer heart is I don't want to rate a game I haven't beat. That feels like cheating to me. So but yeah, that's where I'm saying. Maybe Astro's Playroom because that was fun. I might throw that as an honorable mention.
Look at you, that little subtle flex with the PS5 headphones.
All right, so there we go. The floor is yours. Let's start this off with Miles Morales, where you tell me about the other games.
All right, so yeah, I was gonna say. So I've got some games. I wouldn't say this is my top 5, right? Like I usually when I get to the end, I'm just like, these are games that I think are important. These are games that came out in 2020, and I'm not gonna rank them. It's just these are games that were important to me. And I didn't play every game that came out in 2020, so I can't rank them, but I can say that these games were significant for me, and so I kind of have to call them out. One Step from Eden was a game that basically, if you like Mega Man Battle Network, it's like just a real solid action roguelike. Really great mechanics, good music, good characters. Fuser, which is basically the spiritual successor to Drop Mix, which is like my favorite music making game. The folks over at Harmonix created it's a game that makes you feel like you're actually a DJ, like you are taking the rhythm from one song and you're mixing it with the vocals from you could take the vocals from MC Hammer and mix it with the rhythm from like La Bamba. I don't think those songs are actually in the game. Of course, I can't come up with them right now. But the point of the story is when you're playing Fuser is the closest that I've ever come to feeling like an actual DJ. And they add in a bunch of tools that weren't present in Drop Mix. So you have like synthesizers that you can mess with. There's just all sorts of ways that you can create really powerful, really compelling music. Also, Welcome to Elk came out. That was an indie game that I think a lot of folks slept on, and that is just some really interesting, really, really intriguing, deep, kind of painful storytelling that gets to the heart of how people who are people who have gone through trauma, people who have gone through something, can still sort of like live their lives and push on and have moments of happiness. But it also is a critique of small town culture, or a discussion of small town culture in a way that I think a lot of folks, particularly who might be, for instance, living in this game isn't set in America, but I think about people who are in rural America dealing with things like alcoholism. There are a lot of parallels there. And so there's some amazing stuff there. Paradise Killer. It's
that
just
good, huh?
It's so, I mean, the trippy thing about Paradise Killer is that like it wears its aesthetic and its sort of like weirdness on its sleeve. If you're into almost like this sort of like do rah 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 like anime that's like a weird trippy mystery, but you're also having these questions about like what is truth and like determining. It's so good, and the soundtrack is just the soundtrack is so good. I love, if you love synthwave, dope soundtrack. Anyway, so there are a lot of good indie games. Also, Pendragon is worth checking out if you want to play a game that feels like you're dealing with a little bit of Arthurian legend, like the like King Arthur Arthurian legend, but it also deals a little bit with like what happens when the bad guys have won your government and now you have to push back, but the country is already a little busted anyway. So now what do? That doesn't sound familiar. Not at all, right? So like, anyway, there's so many good games out there. I really should make a list. I always just feel weird about making. I'm also just hella tired. I'm so tired at the end of this year. But all of those things to say, also Animal Crossing did get a significant amount of time from me, and I will give it a vote because it's a place where people are able to come together in a way that was relatively peaceful and share some good experiences, especially at the beginning of this pandemic where a lot of people felt real hopeless, even though the hopelessness still continues on. Miles Morales Spider-Man is definitely one of my top games of the year. And here's the reason why. I know that a lot of people have said, I think you mentioned, it feels like kind of a glorified DLC. I started 2018 Spider-Man and I bounced. Like I got maybe an hour and a half in and I was like, oh, okay, well, the web slinging's kind of cool, whatever. But like, it did not feel compelling to me. And I think a big part of it is because that story, at least so far, what I played of, which I will say I didn't get very far, but it felt like it was another Peter Parker Spider-Man, and people were super excited because the graphics are good and the combat's fluid, and that's all well and good. But Miles Morales is a story about community, and it is a story about how when people say with great power comes great responsibility, like this is not a space where it's all about, well, Miles is Spider-Man, so he has to come in and save the day. This is a space where Miles has power, so he's got a responsibility to use it. His mother has power as a person who's running for city council and has a responsibility to use it. His best friend Genki has power as somebody who's a wizard with technology and has a power to use that. Like, there's so much about bringing like Harlem and these aspects of community and family and like trying to succeed together, that especially in the wake of the social movements that we saw this year. I mean, so much of like being out on the protest line or trying to deal with COVID or all of these things, like our typical understanding of how superheroes work, and it's just you're the one person who goes through and fix everything. You can't. Like, one person, doesn't matter who it was, that tells somebody, oh, okay, we're all going to deal with COVID. That's not how it works. It takes a community. It takes everybody coming together, contributing what they can, and everybody making sacrifices that are not comfortable in order for us to be able to help others. And like, to me, that's what this game's story underscored, in addition to having a real dope soundtrack, a fantastic set of voice actors. And it also was like, I'm happy with the game being 8 to 10 hours. Like, I got other games to play, TBH. So like, I don't need a game to be 30, 40, 50 hours to steal a spot for me. I just need those hours to be meaningful. And honestly, like I put the game down, like I finished the playthrough at like 4:00 in the morning. And then I started it on stream the next day. So I'm all about that game. I think they did something really wonderful with the world that they created in Spider-Man 2018. I'm thankful for it, But I really think Miles Morales is the improvement. But now I got to go back to the original so that I can say it for sure.
I just want to say, in no way people do I think it's a bad game. The only game that I think is a bad game that I played and beat and put a lot of hours into is probably Hades. But that's only because I don't like
roguelike. Okay. I feel like there are so many people.
Yeah, there's a personal vendetta against this game. I can admit that.
What is the issue with Hades?
It's a rogue. I just don't like the formula of roguelike games. Okay. So this is my issue. It's like, okay, I get it. Okay, I will say this: the story makes the roguelikeness make sense, which I appreciate.
Okay, no spoilers.
It's like, okay, it's not like it's not just randomness for the sake of the genre. It's like, okay, there's a why,
and
I can respect that. I'm a logical guy. And I'm like, okay, it's changing. It's supposed to keep you there. There's trap souls. Yes, story is good. Voice acting's good. Logicness behind it checks out. It's hard, but you get better. And so I finally beat Hades. I get through the end, I escape and blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, you got to do it again. I was like, oh, okay. Like one more time, 2 more times, and it's like, you got to do it 10 more times. I was like, oh, heck. Oh, no.
What? No. Spoiler. No. Spoiler. But I had no idea. Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah. To fully beat the game, you have to escape 10 times.
Wow.
And I was like, bruh, it took me 32 runs to escape once. To escape this literal hell of a game. And now you're telling me I gotta accomplish that feat 9 more times or 10 more. I don't know if that was 10 after the first run or 10 collectively.
Okay.
But point is, a lot more times. And I was like, oh, just no. And then, I was thinking, oh, well, I beat it, so I'm good now. Like I'm a boss. And I attempted like 5 more runs and didn't escape. And I was just like, okay, no. Just no. I can't. My sanity. Like, I just that it's like, oh my goodness. And it's the sad thing. Hades is like the apex of roguelikes. So most roguelikes aren't even nowhere that good. So it's like I'm just going through a literal infinite hell for what? Just I can't, man.
I still gotta spend time with it.
Yeah, but no, I love Miles. Like I really did. I like you with the first one. I haven't fully beat it yet, which I mean I can sit down on like focus one day and just knock it out. But as a true game creator, I gotta rate a game as a whole. And what you said about the story and stuff is dope. But then when it comes to gameplay, it's just I've already done this. It doesn't put that feel in me. And honestly, I could probably say that about The Last of Us Part 2. Okay. But the reason I can include The Last of Us Part 2, even though I still think Part 1 is a better game overall, like I'll consider The Last of Us a masterpiece and Last of Us Part 2 like a solid, 8.59. Is because like there were some cool moments, there was some trading of like, been here, done that, but there was enough variety to keep me going. But the end of that game made me feel and experience things no other game has ever made me feel before. And like with anything, any art that you enjoy, for a game to do that after so many stories, after all the tears I've shed, after all the hurt, pain, joy, laughter, for a game to come, especially a sequel game, to come and make me experience new feelings while playing the game is a feat that just can't be ignored.
Wow.
It just can't. Like, and it's weird because like I say that, like I still consider the game a masterpiece, but even though it's not, it's still a game that made me feel ways I never felt before. So kudos to it. Yeah, kudos to the story, kudos to the ending, because if it got the ending that most people thought it should have got, I wouldn't have got those feelings. So
sure.
I appreciate that. One day I'll articulate those feelings in like a memoir or something. But yeah, I need to play more indies. I need to play 13 Sentinels apparently.
13 Sentinels. I just still sitting in this plastic.
There
I'm really excited for it. I've heard this is real good.
Bro, you want to talk about, what? I think I just thought of another article idea. Games that are still sitting in the plastic. I can name 3 right now. Dishonored 2, Kingdom Hearts all in one collection, which that's kind of okay because I've kind of
Yeah,
already
because you played some of them already. Yeah.
And Call of Duty Cold War, all still literally in cellophane.
I played Cold War, made me so upset. I played through that story, and I don't. No, I'm not gonna do that.
It ain't got Ronald Reagan in it. You already knew what you were in for.
That was why I was like, okay. People are like, oh, this is the best story Call of Duty's done in a long time, and I was like, okay, let's see. I know you put Ronald Reagan in here. Let's see how you put this in perspective. Yo, the time that Ronald Reagan shows up on screen, they are in a dark boardroom, and there's light shining in on his face like he is God's gift to presidency. And he's like, the things that you are doing for this year, little people will not know, but it's an honor for you to be able to fight for democracy and freedom and all this stuff. And I was like, okay, so where's the setup where we find out that Reagan actually fucked a number of things up, right? Like, where's the okay? You've set up the dominoes, knock them over, Call of Duty, and those dominoes are still standing. So I was there are a number of statements that I had about this is the first Call of Duty campaign I'd played in a while. Mechanics for Call of Duty, of course, are always real sharp, but I was not. There were a number of ways that I was just like, I feel like even playing. We won't go too hard because I know we've got other real stuff to talk about, right? But like, I remember back in my day playing the original Modern Warfare, and when you died, you remember the screen goes red and they make that sound, right? And then there'd be the like quote on the screen that would show up, and it would say something like "war is hell," or like it'd be some quote from a general or somebody talking about war, and like it felt like even as you were playing this like big explosion laden whatever, there was still this sense of like, yo, actually war's got some pretty bad consequences. Maybe war is not a great thing, but like it feels like it lost a lot of that context. You spend a lot of time running through rice paddies in Vietnam, killing a bunch of no-name, just random Vietnamese folks, and like the game really doesn't care. So it was difficult to play through in a modern context where we understand that these decisions that people made in the Cold War have consequences, and Call of Duty just made it feel like it was just supposed to be a cool action game. I get disappointed real easy when it comes to narrative. Like, don't get me wrong.
No, I completely
Cold War. I wish whatever. Zombies was fun for a minute.
But yeah, that was some of our best gaming. You know what? Real quick, one of my best gaming moments, like outside of games, was we hosted a panel at PAX South this year.
That was dope.
And you know what's sad, or not sad, but you know what's crazy? Doesn't feel like this year anymore. That feels like eons ago.
It really doesn't. PAX South was in January, and that was a great show. It was a really great time. Big shout out to Jenny. Kim Chica out there doing the work, and what happened? Like it's just
I was thinking about that. Like I was going through like my memories, and I was like, oh yeah, it was cool when me and Josh last year were on the panel, and I was like, wait, last year? Oh god, that was this year.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, yes, people, I understand that a month from now it will be a full year, but no, it feels like that was 2 or 3 PAXs ago.
Yep.
Like it feels like one of those ones. Like, which PAX was that? 2018? No, it was 17. No, it was 19 right now. No, it was this year. It's like, oh god.
Yep.
Whoa.
And
PAX South is not even happening.
South is not going to happen. Yeah, I was going to say South is not happening this year. And if it was, I love PAX South. It's maybe my favorite PAX because it's chill and it gives people an opportunity. The Latinx in gaming section that happened last year, what was it? Houston Gamers had put on the like game together section where there were indies that had showed up, including Garden Story. Like, you can't do that at other PAXs. You don't have the real estate. But yeah, I'm sorry, you're not going to get me to fly to PAX right now, and not in San Antonio. Like I'm not like
no, it's crazy because
yeah.
PAX South is not happening, but the other 3 are on schedule to happen. They have locked in the dates. Penny Arcade has said, of course, if things change, but as of right now, as of recording, PAX East, West, Unplugged are still happening.
East?
Yes.
In like April?
Yes. Well, no. The first one's going to be in June.
June. That's right.
Yeah, they pushed and then Australia government told PAX was like, nah, bruh. Nah. You can miss us with that. Right. So PAX Australia. I like to think that conversations on the professional level really happen like that. Like the email just said, nah, bruh.
Nah, forget it. Like those was good jokes. But nah. Dang.
But all right, people. So I warned you about this earlier. We've gave you about a lot of minutes, but now we're going to be talking about, and I want to clarify that we will include minorities in this discussion. We will include disenfranchised groups, but I want to make a clear distinction here that most of what I'm referring to is specifically Black content creators in video games. And I say that because a lot of people will use the narrative and use it to include all groups for excludes my lack of formalcy, but anyone who isn't white. Mm-hmm. And the problem doesn't exist equally in all groups. All groups have their own specific issues, but what we're here to do is discuss the issues specifically with Black content creators in the gaming space and reflect on what happened with those throughout this entire year and the rise and fall of the importance that the industry put on Black content creators, because of course they're important regardless if there's a narrative for it or not. Me and Josh are still here. We're still going to be grinding, whether people are here because of a narrative or here because, of our work. And again, so, my Latino family in gaming, I have nothing against you. My Native family in gaming, Asian, my LGBTQ family, this is nothing against any of y'all. And sometimes these circles do intersect, and they intersect and cross a lot. But again, to clarify, this conversation is primarily for Black people in gaming, African American, of African descent, from the islands, etc., etc., etc. If you look like me or Josh, just to be blunt with it, and I only say that because people sometimes that clarification just honestly needs to be made.
Yeah, I think it's I think very frequently we have these discussions about marginalized folks because there are like you said, there are intersections, right? And there are times at which it's really important and appropriate to have those conversations to make sure that you're not excluding some of these other folks. There also are people who exist at those intersections who are subsequently more marginalized, right? So we've got folks who are Black and LGBT, Black and, are biracial or things like that. And there are specific issues that they go through in their experience. But I think that to talk about the context of the conversation we're having, so much of this was spurred from, it happens every February, but especially in June, when so many of these protests and things kicked off after the murder of George Floyd, Tatiana Jefferson, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery earlier in the year. Like, so much of the context of the discussions that we had to have about marginalized creators in the space were about Black folks. It was specifically Black folks who were being targeted in these social situations. It was Black folks who were being looked to be the answer to all of the problems, to be the whisperer, to explain the racism, right? And so I think that it makes sense to qualify that, like, there are tons of other times where we have those conversations. But yeah, there's a reason why, particularly now, the conversation has gravitated around the sort of rise and fall, like you said, of the focus on Black folks.
Yeah, of course. And, I will never highlighting black people will never be a bad choice. There was things I got to be on because of what was going on. And I say, and people will always ask me, do you think they actually be on it because you was black? And the answer is 100% yes. Because these people that I've known, these shows that I've been on, I've known these people for years, professionally. And some, on a more friend level. And I've never once been asked to be on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not, they are not required to ask me to be on. They don't have to go out of their way. That's not something that should be on their priority list. I feel like personally, they just don't have to. It's not required of them. I'm just saying those opportunities were never presented to me. I've been in this industry for a long time, and everything that I've done, I've had to seek. I've had to, grind, try, seldom has it ever just appeared to me out of someone's kindness of heart. It did actually this year. Shout out to Michael from GameSpot. He's a real one. But other than that, these opportunities presented me because I imagine the conversation went like, "Who's someone black that we know?" And it was like, "Oh shit, Odell! Like we've known Odell for years." Like I wasn't in the room where it happened, but I am 99% sure that's how that conversation went. And I ain't mad at it. I will take all the exposure I can get. But like you said earlier, it makes you feel some type of way because, like, not jokingly, why did there have to be a literal blood black sacrifice of somebody?
100%.
Why did black people have to die and literal buildings burn for you to think to reach out to talk to me?
Yep.
And I just don't think that's not cool. Like, again, I'm gonna take the exposure, but especially, for me speaking personally, if you've known me for years, if you've seen me at E3 for years, you've seen me at PAX for years, you've seen everything I've done. Why did it take that for you to give me an opportunity for free, essentially? Like,
yeah.
And it makes me feel some type of way. Honestly, there is anger in that. Of course, I have to, internally focus, and work through myself. And so like you said, Josh, if you would you be so kind to give people a timeline of how this happened?
No, it's I have struggled. Pardon me, I've struggled a lot with exactly that same stuff. Because in June, when and keep in mind, right, these discussions about Black Lives Matter, the movements, seeing the t-shirts, the protests, the things like that, like this has been going on for years, right? It's that it was this particular, I believe it was this particular combination of circumstances, a killing so graphic and so blatant that there was no way to deny the audacity of it, right? Like, and it's on video. This is a person who looked dead into a camera as this is happening, combined with a pandemic that has kept everybody in their houses, glued to their screens, and a little bit more networked, and with a little bit less ability to just turn into, oh, well, let me pay attention to this other thing. And on top of all that, right, like now you've got folks out in the streets during and gathering together during a pandemic. You have, of course, the news, the news that's chasing that this is the building that burned down, whatever. And so as all of these things are happening, then it's becoming more important, more relevant to everyone. Now all of a sudden, folks are like, oh, wait a second. Well, we better say something about Black Lives Matter, right? Because folks are getting called out. They're like, oh, how did your company not make a statement? How did your company not whatever? There have been folks out there who've been doing the work for a minute. But I think particularly when we look at the game space, and we look at that Lesson in Blackness episode that Spawn on Me, and Khalif Adams and the crew put together, that seemed to be a sort of like reminder for a lot of people, like, oh, maybe we should be giving opportunities to Black people. Maybe they've had some problems in the industry, and we should do something about that. But like for me, the part that I'm going to try and not make this an hour-long story. The part that was the most difficult for me was twofold. The parts that were difficult for me were twofold. One is that I felt like, and you made kind of reference to this earlier, it felt like when this happened and a lot of the stuff was going off and companies were starting to say like, oh, wait a second, we need to be providing opportunities for Black folks. We're being held accountable for this. People are asking these questions. It kind of felt like, oh, this is the moment, right? Like this happens every February, and it happened again where it's like everybody's paying attention. And if I'm not out there grinding, right? If I'm not making the tweets, if I'm not posting the lists or whatever, then money's not going to see me. And I'm going to lose this opportunity to be a part of the discussion, which is frustrating for anybody who's dealing with whatever, whether it's, you know, every February this rolls around and Black folks are like, oh, okay, well now it's Black History Month. So let's put together a list of Black Twitch streamers you should be following. But come March, nope, it's done, right? That's difficult enough in February. What made it more difficult this time around is that I'm actively dealing with race-related trauma. You know, like I'm watching these videos come across my feed of Black people being killed and thinking about myself, my family members. And on top of all this, people are asking me to show up for work. Now's the time that you need to be putting out more blog posts. Now's the time that you need to be doing more tweets. And the fact of the matter is that there are folks out there who were able to do that work, who were able to find that space or had that support, who had that community or whatever, and opportunities showed up as a result. I have no grievance towards those people. And in fact, I am incredibly thrilled that those people are still out there making those influences in the space. There are folks out there who need to see more Black people get spotlight. And I'm glad that folks were able to come through that. I just don't think that they should have had to take that moment to grind. I think they should have had that moment to be able to grieve, to find community, to not, you know, be shoving around for, you know, for that, to get that opportunity, to get that spot. We don't have infrastructure in place to take care of Black creators. We have moments in which people will focus on Black creators. And that means that when those moments fade, there are a whole bunch of people out there sitting around waiting, trying to figure out, making good content on the regular, who are not going to be in a position to take advantage. I think there are. Again, I'm sorry. I'm gonna try and wrap this up.
No, man, you're good. You're good.
There are structures in play. There are ways that folks have come together since June. You know, the Blacks in Gaming group has really found more. There's a Blacks in Gaming group on Facebook, and then a Black Game Pros group on Discord. There are communities that have come together that are starting to build some of that infrastructure. But it still feels like it's just like, well, you know, I guess February is coming up. Better get your blog posts ready, friends, because you know somebody, they're gonna need to feature one of us.
Oh man,
so I'm gonna be one. So you just better get your stuffs together.
You know, so I'm gonna tackle a lot of things, and I'm just gonna kind of tackle them in whatever order. But what you said is true. One of the things, you know, there's some conversations that us as Black people have to have behind closed doors that aren't meant for everyone. And
Sure.
one of those conversations that I can talk aloud is now that we all had in June. How long is this gonna last? How long will the gaming industry care about us before they stop caring?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that it's back to what it was pre-June, but it's back to what it was pre-June. We got our spotlight, we got our cookies and milk. You know, we've all collectively agreed that Black lives are important.
Right.
And then as I'm looking around, and it slightly hurts me to say this, but who's been hired? Who has a job? I'm Blessing was hired before all this happened, but I know a lot of people, became a fan of Blessing. Blessing is awesome at Kind of Funny, first and foremost. Not taking away from him.
Work.
He is doing work. He is amazing. He deserves every accolade he gets.
Yeah, and he's been doing the grind and doing the work far before this.
Yes, okay, beast in everything he does. He is reaping what he sowed. And, a lot of people came on board, and like one of the problems I'm also going to touch on is that they championed him like there was gonna be black people championed to be like, look, we fixed the problem. And, he's included in that, and that's nothing. That's something completely absent of Blessings doing. Like that's something the community does. And then, because I had to actually tell people, I had Blessing got hired before all of this, right? You know that, right? Blessing is not a byproduct of this happening.
Right.
He had already won his spot. And then the only other person I could think of who got a job is, Xavier Woods with G4. Shout out to him. Looking forward to them hosts. But let's be real. Xavier Woods is famous.
Yeah.
He is a famous black man who was very much famous way before any of this happened.
Real talk.
So I'm looking and I'm just like, here's all these black creators. Shout out to Zombie Kills. She ain't got a job. Khalif, who has been grinding long. Khalif has been grinding longer before I could formulate my dreams in this industry. He doesn't have a job. Paris, who is one of the OG video game podcasters, doesn't have a job. I mean, they have jobs, but it's not in the gaming space at any big outlet. And I've talked to you, Josh, and I want to say this, people, I do not speak for Paris. I do not speak for Khalif. I do not speak for Blessing. Just how any one white person does not speak for white peoples collectively, because that's a problem we face in the black community. If I say something or you say something, we're now speaking for, the culture, which we are not. So I do not speak for them. These are just Odell Evans Harmon Jr.'s opinion. It hurts me to watch someone like the homie Khalif be interviewed by people half his age, twice his senior. Like, I'm like, what kind of world do we live in? That, I am happy for anyone who achieves their dreams and makes their shot. Like, the world is hard, so I can never crap on anyone for how they attained their dreams or why they're there or who cherry picked them. Whatever, they're living it, they wanted it, and that's something I can't. But it hurts me to see people talk to Khalif like, wow, look at all this amazing work you've done. Look at what you've done. Look at your career that has a breadth of like over half the people that currently work in this office with the big boy job. To be highlighting him, someone who before this person probably graduated high school, was already grinding and doing, and for people to look at his content as if he just showed up today.
Sure. And
that hurts me, and it's not just Khalif. You have people like Paris. And, you have people like Danny Pena, Godfrey on Twitter, with the Latin community, who I think maybe like I've seen say like he's probably been video game podcasting in general longer than anyone who currently does in this industry, point blank, period. Yeah. Like, you can add up an entire team at IGN, GameSpot, what have you, and only maybe like 3 people, like the OGs of the OGs, like, Andy McNamara, Per Schneider, that has a breadth of experience more than these people. Yet not only do they not have a place, not have a job, no one's even seen their content. And I'm like, it hurts to live in a world like that. It just does. Like, for example, Josh, we went to TGS. We met there. We didn't even know where we were going. We
had right. Tokyo Game Show.
Tokyo and stuff. I met you through Julian. Shout out to Julian, at PAX.
Yeah.
We both been through the circuit, and I've known people who got jobs at IGN, who's got jobs at GameSpot, Kotaku, and never even been to a PAX. Not one. Until after that. And I'm just like, how in the world of this small industry where networking is key, where, you got to do stuff, you got to put yourself out there, and you've never been to a convention and landed a job. And, and it's really hard to look at that and be like, I will talk about myself exclusively, not for anyone to go angrily yell at someone else, that I've been to more PAXs than I can count. I've been to Gamescom. I've been to TGS, 100% self-funded. You know, I've grinded literally around the world. And you know, someone got a job because they're like, oh, working in video games is cool. That'll be a cool job. And they were given the job. And I'm going to talk about some things that I've never talked about openly on a show before. So this year has been great for me. You know, I've got to be on NVC, Nintendo Voice Channel, IGN. I got to be on MinMax. I got to be on some other cool podcasts to do some great features. You all know who you are. I'm not gonna laundry list shout out, but thank you everyone who's asked me to be on the show. I will always be on the show. I will, no matter how big I may get, no matter how many blessings may come my way, I will never turn down an opportunity to work with anyone. But this year I had a really big blow to so shout out again to Michael at GameSpot. He asked me in January, this was actually at PAX, if I would like to freelance write for GameSpot, you know, the news and stuff. And of course I took the opportunity, amazing opportunity. So I started doing it at the beginning, at the first part of this year. But I had been dealing with, I will say, depression. I won't say like I'm chronically depressed and as, you know, I need to go seek medicine and anything. Just, you know, I'm human and we go through natural ups and downs. And I was going through a really hard time in my career then, that it was just, you know, when you grind for so long and, you know, the grind is long and the results and, you know, what you get back is so minimum, it really just takes a toll on you. And at the time this opportunity presented itself, excited I was going through a very hard toll at that time. And then I contracted COVID, and then I got over in COVID at the beginning of June, actually. And then, so all this stuff is going on. I'm dealing with personal stuff. I'm dealing with the national news. I'm dealing with things in my own life. And I actually lost that opportunity because at that time, I did not want to create. I reached a point where even though I had this amazing opportunity at GameSpot, I did not want to create anymore. And a lot of that has to do with, you know, the depression I was feeling, but also what was going on in the Black community and things. And like you said, this was a time where everyone's expecting us to be like, oh, what can you do? Where can you be at? I literally remember it was maybe like a week after recovery when MVC asked if I wanted to be on, and I honest to God wanted to tell them no. Mm-hmm. Part of me was angry because I was like, why now? Why now do you want me to be on the show? All the years you've known me, and I've never been on this show. But I also knew at the same time that was not an opportunity that I could turn down.
Right.
There, in no realistic world could I turn down that opportunity or any future opportunity, especially after I just got through losing a major one, which I can't really blame on the pandemic and all that, because all that was presented to me before. That was just, you know, it was kind of like right place, wrong time type of thing. And, you know, that hurt me deeply. And then here comes all these amazing opportunities and stuff. And then, you know, like you said, the pressure besides being on those, I told myself I won't let the show go because I got to create somehow. But it was just a time where, if I'm being honest, there was a time, Josh, where I wrote over 80 articles in 1 year. 80 articles against a couple of different sites, you know, did everything, you know, you see, if you follow me on here, my social media, you know, I hit up these cons all the time. Mm-hmm. And it was just like, I'm trying my hardest, my damnedest. And the only reason I'm getting an opportunity now is because Black people died and you got to look good for other people. And it hurt me to my core so much. And specifically with IGN, another thing that hurt me was, so we all remember Philip, the whole plagiarism scandal at IGN. When you got the Nintendo position. I actually interviewed for a position 4 different times. Like, I made it to the interview process, went over the course of 4 different interviews. I talked to a lot of different people, you know, assuming it to be true, I was, you know, in the running. Like, I made it to like maybe a single digit number of candidates. Ultimately, Philip won, this guy who had, you know, Nintendo, little Nintendo YouTube channel. And I remember, I regret this now, but I remember saying in my interview that I was completely transparent and told them that, you know, I'm probably not ready to be the Nintendo editor at IGN, to be the Nintendo guy at the biggest place on the planet. Like, I understand that, but, you know, I've made it to this interview for a reason. I'm here for a reason, and that I will work hard, put in the extra hours and nights. And like I've always said, I've worked so hard, pushed myself to the furthest I can go every year for free. I will not come into your house and make it look bad. I will do whatever it takes, you know, to rise to the occasion. Ultimately, Philip got it. And when I learned that he got that far, 100% that far, off lying, just from everything he did, apparently even Kotaku reported that his what you call it, his resume was even fraud. I don't know if that's true or not. I just, because we know the mudslinging came hard for him, rightfully so. And it was like, that was the moment I knew, because black person, you know, we hear it all the time. My grandma told me this, you know, my whole family, and I've always tried to ignore it. You will have to work twice as hard to get half as far. Yes.
Every black grandma.
Yes, we hear it all the time. You will have to work twice as hard to get half as far. And I never wanted to subscribe to that notion. I never wanted to. The world is different. Times have changed. And that moment, I had to be like, a white man lying was far more attractive than my best effort could ever be. And it literally broke me. Like, I honestly thought right then and there I was going to give up working in the game industries completely. I overcame it, but it broke me to pieces.
Yeah.
And the part that threw salt in the wound was people were defending him until it was just apparent he was the scum of the earth. People were like, you know, it's hard. You know, everyone doesn't handle the pressure differently. Oh, you know, it's, you know, I wish he would have came to us. We would have worked it out. Y'all refused to accept him for what he was. And I don't know if that's because he was white. I don't know if the lies are that good. But at that point, it was apparent that nothing I could do could ever be better than a semi-okay white person. And that's something I still struggle with to this day in the gaming industry.
Yeah. That's a lot. And I know you've told me some of that, you know, personally.
Yeah,
but it's I vibe a lot of that struggle, you know. I often one of my first big jobs out of college, I was working for a healthcare IT company, and the first round of interviews was over the phone. And I oftentimes make the joke, or whatever, that candidates may not know that they're hiring a black man if they just interview him over the phone. It turns out when I show up in person, sometimes people get a little surprised. And there are, folks have, we've talked about in the community, right? You know, folks who can be like white passing, right? And the advantages of being white passing. And so there's a certain element of like digitally, when you have a name like Josh Boykin, right? When you talk on the phone and sound oftentimes like I do, there's a certain amount of folks' issues with black people that you get to kind of sidestep until you show up in person. And it is difficult. It's just difficult to exist in the space knowing that that is part of the equation. I often question whether or not, you know, like, I know people who are grinding, and frankly, I think oftentimes are grinding harder than I am. What spaces are afforded to me because people prefer the way that I sound, prefer the topics that I bring up on chat. You know, like, it's one of the things that I think has made 2020 such a struggle, particularly being a black content creator, is that, like, I think so many of us have had to come to this really sort of deep introspective place to figure out what it means for us to be a content creator and what ways our blackness is utilized by the space that we're in, right? You know, for Intelligame, we ran a fundraiser the Friday. I think it was the Friday of the week that George Floyd had been murdered. And we had a bunch of people show up. We had a lot of donations, and I'm really thankful for every single one of those. But I also feel like a part of those donations came through. Part of it was because, like, I've been building this community, and like, Intelligame is a community that cares about social issues and is willing to show up when it's time to show up. No doubt about it. But there's also this part of me that was like, I spent hours on that stream just like tearing my heart open, right? Telling these stories of police brutality, potential police brutality, like, and it's not something I want to have to go through all the time. And there is an element of success or visibility that comes from those situations. And it really is. It's the thing that I continually struggle with, where it's like, I want there to be opportunities for folks out there. I just don't want them to always be framed in the idea of like, well, this is the black offer, this is Twitch, and then this is black Twitch, this is Twitter, this is black Twitter. And like there is a reason that we have those spaces. There's a reason we create those spaces, and there's also a culture and an energy that is obviously valuable, because otherwise certain other folks wouldn't be taking it all the damn time. Hello, TikTok. But it hurts me to hear you tell a story knowing how hard you grind, knowing the work that you're doing, knowing the commitment that you have to the space, and knowing that's I would not want to lose. And I think that is the fear that I have, is that we lose people who could be making those quality contributions to the space, who could be providing those opportunities for mentorship, for leadership, and frankly, just length of experience. And when stuff like that happens, when it's like, oh, this is a dude and he turned out to be a plagiarist, right? Like, we all get hosed sometimes. But that's why I talk about needing to have systemic. We need infrastructure. There are folks out there. I think Zom is the community manager for like Soft Not Week, right? And Soft Not Week is a dope group of marginalized folks who are working on a game, and they, I believe they had some grant money. Like, there are a lot of ways that that us folks are looking out for other folks like us. And I feel like you have this continual pressure to keep doing that, which is good. But I think that all of this speaks to, like, we need these systems that are existing, and we need existing power structures to make more of those spaces for people to get involved. And if we're creating a space where it feels like the only way that Black folks can get put on is for it to be either the shortest month of the year, or for somebody to be sacrificed at the altar, like, we have not fixed that problem. And for as much as we are having these conversations, I don't want to sideline this, but for as much as we're having these conversations about Black folks, what happens to those folks who have those additional identities? What's happening with Black trans folks? What's happening with Black LGBT folks in general? What's happening with folks who are biracial? What's happening to, other communities that aren't getting that spotlight, that infrastructure? Like, we have that expectation. We have that responsibility of not only carrying a bunch of the weight, but also paving a bunch of the trail. And it's a lot. It's real tiring. So at the end of the year, yeah, I think a lot of us are real tired. And like, I will say that, like, the part that you kind of touched on that I also will kind of speak to is that there's also maybe this isn't, I should just speak for myself. For me professionally, 2020 has been, personally, it's been kind of a garbage year. Professionally, I've had a lot of opportunities this year that I have not had before. A lot of it for exactly the same reasons that you talked about. I've moderated panel discussions for Facebook. I've been on PAX panels. I've been places and done stuff that I didn't expect that I would do, particularly from this chair, which I've barely left for 2020. But there is also that element of a sort of guilt and a morbid curiosity that I carry of, oh, folks know I've been doing this work for a minute. IntelliGame's not really any different than it was, before any of this happened. So like how much of my opportunity do I owe to tragedy? And I think that that's something that we're perhaps all dealing with to a certain extent, whether it's COVID, whether it's police brutality, systemic racism, garbage elections, government corruption. There are certain ways that we've managed to find some silver linings or make silver linings out of real terrible situations. But then we also have to deal with the idea that like, why did it take that for this to happen? Why does it take, blatant graphic police brutality and nationwide protests for our organization to recognize the contributions of Black people? And it shouldn't come to that. Obviously, I want there to be a space for every person to get exactly the opportunities they're looking for. And it's real difficult. And we deal with an ecosystem that is not made to help us. These algorithms, like whatever, but like when you're on Twitter, when you're on YouTube or whatever, you have to grind at a nearly inhuman rate to be able to trend, right? Because like these algorithms care more about you when you put more energy into them. But when we have folks at the margins, when we have Black folks who are grinding their daily life stuff on top of trying to get all these tweets out, on top of all it just creates a space where folks are burning themselves out. And let's also not forget that, like, heaven forbid you not be the right kind of Black person getting shine. Because like we've shouted out Zom a couple of times. Zom is out there consistently grinding, but the vitriol that she's taken from certain corners of the internet right now is disgusting. And the infrastructure still doesn't exist to protect her or other creators like her. Cypher of Tyr, I believe it was last year, was a similar target. Folks don't like a Black woman coming out and saying whatever it is. And now you've got these people who are supposed to be out here trailblazing, and now they are taking heat from a bunch of folks who are real unhappy that they happen to get spot. And now where is everybody? Where's the help? Where are these communities? Where are where's Twitch? Where's YouTube to fix this stuff? It's not enough to just say like, hey, here's your spot. If you can't offer a system, if you can't offer safety, security, a long-term investment, you're subjecting people to danger. Zoliver Nelson Jr., who has had a heck of a year and has done some really amazing stuff. I remember he tweeted, I believe it was in June, and said like, come back to this in 3 months, he said. And he's like, if you are not still following and still keeping up with all of these black creators that you're retweeting and talking about how important they are right now, you're having them go through all of this for nothing. And like, sure enough, he retweeted it when the time had passed and was like, well, looks like that's what happened. Our memories are short, man.
They are. And I mean, if this blackballs me, it blackballs me. But people, I see prominent people in the industry, and I know these people personally, and I know they truly care. And I know some people personally who I know they truly don't. It's both sides of that coin. But it goes back to what I'm saying. If you truly care, hire Black people. Don't just come out to defend them on social media, which you should. I'm saying you completely should. But the reason why we have to result on those people to come defend us because there are no people already there to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I know people will always say, like, oh, should you just get hired because you're Black? And honestly, the answer is just yes to me. The honest answer is yes. Because again, back to that story, if a white man could just be hired for being a pure liar, then yeah. By that metric alone, I'm Black and have skill. I am infinitely better than that. Infinitely.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, I really just want to, I hope to God I see that, like, like, I love Black people getting shine, but we're not there. the spotlight can only shine on you for so long. And if you're not there, I don't want to have to rely on our white counterparts in the community to be there because they're the only people in the space that can.
Mhm.
And and it shouldn't have to be like, oh, Blessing, we got to turn to Blessing because he's just the literally only person there. He's not. There are other Black people professionally in the industry. I'm just using the names that people will know because
Sure.
of events. And I'm just tired of just looking at people get spotlight but no actual real opportunity. Because it's like I got the internship at Google, but I didn't get the job at Google. I got the internship at Amazon, but I didn't get the job at Amazon. Then at the end of it, what's that point? My name was on a list,
Mhm.
And I don't like to live on my past glories. I really don't, because I know I can't ride that until I make it. And I look and people will see the things I've done, and they'll come to me and they'll be like, "Wow, why haven't you made it yet?" And it's like and I always hate having to answer that question. Because there's a real strong part of me, because like if I was white, I would have made it a decade ago. That's always the answer I want to give. That's my honest God to answer is, for everyone who's asked me on any social media, I've lied to you. I've always lied to you. My answer in my heart of hearts has always been, if I was white, I would have been made it by now. Because again, I know people in the industry who still have not done the things that I've done. And I just feel like if I was, Chad Johnson from Houston Community College and he had the same resume as me, people be rolling out the red carpet for him.
Sure.
And again, there's just even outside of the plagiarism story, there's other stories I could tell, but they're a little too personal in the sense that it will become apparent who are the people I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? If you did a little digging. And I don't want to put no one at blast. I'm not here to destroy someone's career. I'm not. I always say that, me and those people have a discussion when I can look at them on equal footing.
Sure.
And so, and it hurts me to say that, December 2020 is looking just like January 2020 for Black creators in the gaming space.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly right now can see no difference other than I can give you some key names that people highlighted throughout the year. But I personally don't see a difference. And I think the gaming industry as a whole has failed Black content creators. I don't know if you feel the same, Josh. We did good. We started, we the intentions were good, but we did not deliver on anything truly other than a couple of names on some lists. And I literally mean that. That is not a hyperbole. I don't know what the game industry has contributed for Black content creators other than names on lists throughout the year.
Yeah. I think I'm going to take a slightly more optimistic approach.
Please do.
And that doesn't necessarily mean I'm correct, but I'm going to do it anyway. I feel like I think that a number of the pain points that existed for Black content creators at the beginning of 2020 still exist at the end of 2020. I actually think that, kind of like you've mentioned, some of them are even magnified because it felt like there was this promise, right? Here's this opportunity. Here's all of these, all of this white text on Black backgrounds of insert company saying this is the way that we care about Black folks, right? And now it feels like a lot of that stuff is gone. And frankly, it's because a significant amount of it is. What I believe, and I say that I believe because I think that there are a number of ways that we have found, particularly in 2020, that belief shapes reality, regardless of its accuracy
evidence.
when it's yeah, exactly. So what I'm choosing to believe right now is that there are a lot of people out there who are struggling with how to do the work. They understand the importance of doing the work, but they are struggling with how to do the work. And also, there are a number of folks who are struggling with many of the same scenarios that we've talked about that reach outside of the Black community in terms of COVID, in terms of, the election, all of these different things. I think that there are a number of competing priorities that a number of folks are dealing with. I take hope, and I do take stock in friends of mine who are not Black folks, who I do know are doing the work, literally sitting down and doing the work on a daily, or weekly basis. Folks who have been out at protest lines more than I've been at protest lines, people who have been keeping up with the issues that have been going on, who have been donating to causes. I have to believe that what is happening right now is the beginning of the building of the ecosystem and the infrastructure. I am a little disappointed that my algorithm seems to not care as much, that my Twitter feed is not as full. But what I have to believe, and what I have decided is part of what guides me into 2021, is how do I build that infrastructure? Y'all said last year that you gave a damn. Y'all said in June, here is your tweet. This is the thing that we care about. We're going to make a fund. We're going to do this thing. Great. I'm glad you said that. Now here's how you do it. Let me show you how that's done. I am not the influential person in the space. I am not the person with 1 million Twitter followers. I'm not the person with a big circulation, whatever. Anybody who goes to IntelliGame's website thinks that I haven't done shit since June, because that is the last post that was posted on that website. I've been streaming consistently since then, so please don't get it twisted. But like, folks who walk onto that website and expect to figure out what I've been doing, I haven't, because I've been a fraction of a person for the majority of this year. And I don't mean that in the 3/5 sense, though there are a number of people out there who apparently never got the memo. I don't know how to tell you, but it turns out we're actually supposed to be able to vote. So it has been very difficult to be a creator this year. And I really resonate with you when you were saying, like, I didn't even feel like making anything anymore. I love this industry. It is the one place where I have felt welcome and felt at home with these passions, with this energy. And I hit points where I was like, I don't even know if this is worth it. Why? And frankly, in a world where all of this is happening to folks who don't have the opportunity to sit behind a desk in front of a webcam and talk to people, am I wasting time? Am I wasting energy? Am I wasting money? And so I think many of us, probably most of us, have thought about quitting at one point. And so now I've decided that no, this industry is important. It is a multi-billion-dollar industry. It is important financially. It is important societally. Look at the ways that, and disclosure, I work on the merchandise for this game, but the way that Among Us has just changed the shape of the ways that people engage in games and game spaces, the way that kids are playing this game, the way that politicians are playing this game. Games are critically important, and we've been sitting out here saying it for years. Now you see it. But like, this can't be the time where we walk away from the platform. Maybe y'all showed up with a D-. I don't know. Maybe you're like, you got an F, and I'm like, you got like a D. You got like maybe a C-. I don't know. I would like to consider myself a gracious educator and grader, but fact of the matter is 2021, the stakes are up. Please believe that when this presidency changes over, there are going to be a whole lot of folks who are on that pushback game, just like they were in 2020 when we happened to change presidents.
Oh man, you're right.
Or in 2016. So,
and I'm being real, but I know that can be construed as being negative. So I'll try to.
I don't think it's being negative. I think you're being real. Please do not mistake my perspective as trying to correct what you're saying. I think that you've been very real, and I don't disagree with it. I really don't.
Oh no, I'll be correct. That was more for the listeners, not you.
Okay. I don't want somebody out there to be like, oh well, I I like what he's saying. I don't know about the other. He seems kind of
That guy
angry,
sounded
but I like
happy.
this. I like this guy. He sounds hopeful. No, don't.
As you said, do not get
me
it twisted.
started.
Oh,
Nope.
so you know, I've worked through my stuff in 2020. You know, I am in a lot better place than I was January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November. I'm in a much better place now. I've gotten through some stuff. I'm gonna keep content creating. I have big plans. I'm working on some video features. I'm not gonna stop grinding. I'm ultimately. I had the conversation with myself. Is it time to hang it up? Just get a regular 9 to 5, save money, raise a family. White picket fence and all that. Mm-hmm. And like you said, this is a place that I truly love. And it pains me that that I had that my love wasn't the reason I had got shine this year. My pure love and enthusiasm for games. Because like that is never changing. That's never wavering. I love them. Let me put like this. I love games so much that Hades was my number 3 most played game on the Switch. A game which I clearly do not like. Was still played more hours than games that I truly do love. So that's how reaching my love for this industry is, that I can be like, this is dumb. I don't like this. It's not dumb, but I don't like it. But I'm going to put the hours, the time, so I can have a formulated, a good opinion about the game. And, I love games. There's games like Pokemon and Metal Gear that, transcend love, as it feels like, some unconditional, this is my child type stuff. And to my future children, no, I do not love Pokemon more than you while you're in the room. And so, though, I want to be here. Every year I say I'm going to get a job in this industry. In 2021, I'm going to say it again, as my New Year's resolution or what have you. But best believe it's going to be some different energy coming with that in 2021. Yeah. I am going to be pushing. And like you said, I know people in this industry, non-Black people, putting in the work. And I thank you. Because honestly, you do not have to. You should. But it ain't your fight. And I really can't blame someone not fighting the good fight. Mm-hmm. Especially when it's not theirs. But I thank you. And, we're going to get through this together. And to everyone who's believed in me, thank you. I have some support. Shout out to Ryan Frazier. He subscribed to the $50 tier of Full Circle Podcast Patreon. Like, most people just donate. And I was just like, he said he saw me on kind of fine that I really needed that support. And $50 is not nothing. And because like you said, the algorithms, I'm active on Twitter, but I'm not like the 30 posts a day guy. Mm-hmm. They're like, why aren't you vocal, Dale? And it's because, I know a lot of people personally, and I don't want to put a target on their back because, I'm angry right now. I'm not saying that anger wasn't, justified.
Sure.
For example, like that IGN story I just told, like, that happened, a couple years back. And I never wanted to truly voice that because I didn't want to drag anyone's name through the mud. They were already going through a tough time. And, and like I'm just gonna be honest, an angry Black man screaming about injustice. Well, what good was that gonna do me? Honestly, it wouldn't. I mean, people would have been like, "Damn, that's messed up." Yeah. But that's about it. And then
get some likes.
Yeah, and then get some big companies been like, "Damn, that's messed up," but we're probably not gonna hire this guy. So, it's a delicate dance we weave.
Yeah.
But no, I'm full of hope. I thank God I made it through, because there was times, man, that June and July were the hardest months this year for me. I literally just could not, like I said back with GameSpot, like I had an opportunity in my lap and I just couldn't. Yeah, and it like it sounds crazy because it's like it's your dream, it's your passion, it's what you've literally worked for free to do. It's what I drove across the country to do at Game Informer in an unpaid internship. It's what I flew to Tokyo to do, to cover TGS as a one-man crew. It's what I, got on a train from Paris to do in Germany. It's what I, work all year for, honestly, to go to E3 and PAX for. I tell people I work to chase my passion. Like, I'm not sure if I'm even working to eat and live at this point. Like, I literally go to work and be like, I gotta take off vacation time this time. I need to have X amount of dollars saved up by this time. It's like, ooh, new shoes. I don't know. I gotta get a plane ticket, so those shoes might have to wait. It's something I truly love, and this just told me that I'm never gonna stop loving it, but I guess my mindset now is I want to get so good, so influential, so big that I am going to be the hardest thing on the planet to ignore. That is where that is my goal right now.
That's dope. I think that makes a lot of sense. I have been I'm trying not to talk about it too much because I know everybody's out here saying they didn't get superpowers, and I know that we're not really supposed to be talking about it, so I'm not gonna. But I just believe that in 2021, I find that I have a habit of shouting out or calling attention to good allies, right? Because I think that that's important. I think that folks out there who, like you said, don't have to be doing the work, and you're out there doing the work, that's important. There are people out there who are going to listen to you that are not going to listen to me, and I appreciate that you folks are out there. That said, I have learned so much from other Black folks this year. The ways that we've had discussions about, about police reform, about police abolition, all sorts of concepts of things that I didn't know. And like Black folks have been having these conversations for years. These conversations aren't new. They're just new to me, and I'm Black people. So like, what I'm really trying to take stock in 2021 is like, I know that I run in a lot of spaces that are mixed company, and I have, I think, a skill set in knowing how to navigate those spaces and how to motivate people, and I want to use that skill set. I think it's important, but I also want to spend more time gravitating towards and propping up the Black folks who are doing that work, who are fun, and create those opportunities, create that ecosystem and that infrastructure. We have resources. People aren't putting us on, whatever. Like, I guess we'll put ourselves on, right? And like, I really think that is going to be. I think that there are more allies in the space than before. I think there are more enemies out there that are forming in the space because they feel like it's a zero-sum game. And that is just going to be the nature. Somebody told me the other day, it's like, white people are going to do what white people do. And like, the fact of the matter is that we have this opportunity to be out here and to create something in this space. I am trying to be better about the idea of recognizing that I love this space and I love this work, but I will spend time in places that love me back. I'm not going to sit here and grind and yell for the attention of places and people who have made it abundantly clear that they only care about me when it's convenient for them. I have this issue sometimes, and I know that people have had to have this conversation with me. I have some ADHD stuff that I should probably be working on that would make it a little bit better for me to be able to handle some of these relationship ideas, right? And how to make sure that you're creating healthy connections with other people and creating them in a manner that's sustainable. But the real talk is that, like, when it comes to this industry, when I think about why I continue grinding with IntelliGame, why I continue and imagine that you continue grinding with Full Circle. It's because of those situations. Like, did you say it was Philip? No.
Yeah.
What? Yeah.
Yeah, his name was Philip.
Yeah. You know, it's because like you can find these situations where you're like, I'm going to do better than this. Right. And then you also have these other situations where you have like patrons who say like, actually, I believe in you. I believe in you. And I believe in this situation that and that means something. So like, I would love to get more spot. I've got a couple projects that are coming around the corner that I'm actually really excited about, that I'm kind of keeping low key because I try not to talk about my stuff until it happens, because otherwise you don't know. But the fact of the matter is that I want to be better at spending time, recognizing that I love this space, but I will spend time and invest time and energy in the spaces that love me back. I need it to be I need this work to not be constantly reaching out for stuff for people who are not. I've been amazed by the work that people have made in their smaller communities. I've been amazed by the things that we've done in IntelliGame. We're not a big community, you know. If one day insert large outlet wants to have me on, cool. But like the money that we raised this year, the IGN didn't have to put me on to do that. The talks that we had, the panel that we were on for PAX, right? Like, and there are people who were legitimately changed from that, and I just have to I have to think about that. It's like, I tell folks, and I'm gonna try and I think about churches, convenience stores, and laundromats. And the reason that I think about those businesses because they are everywhere. When you get into a city, like, I mean, how many times you like walk out of a bodega and there's a bodega across the street? You go, you know, there's a Starbucks across the way, right? But these things are sustainable. They're not all super big. Some of them, they serve the exact same product. You could have a halal cart in New York directly across the street, directly standing next to another halal cart serving the same food. But what you do is that you recognize that there is a group of people that you're able to serve. And for that group of people, you are effective and you are valued. And there are things and experiences that you offer that other people don't. People will walk across the street for your stuff. My grandfather once told me, we went to this grocery store. Gas station. We went to this gas station, and it is literally 2 blocks down the street from another gas station in my hometown. And the gas station that we went to, it was like, I don't know, 5 cents, 6 cents a gallon more expensive. And I'm young at this point, and I'm like, Grandpa, why are we going there when the other gas station's cheaper? And he says, well, this gas station's got air for free. They had just the little hose outside. It wasn't attached to the quarter machine or whatever. You just put it on your tire, do the thing. And he says, you know, I'm willing to pay a few extra cents a gallon because they provide me a service that I really appreciate, and they provide it to other people too. Now that 5 or 6 cents a gallon that he's paying as an additional premium at that gas station, that's going to add up to far more than the cost of filling up those tires. I don't know what, 2-3 times a year, but it's important, you know, and those are the places where I think it's where we have to take stock. We have to recognize that, like, yo, you're going to be that guy, right? You're grinding, and I'm excited to see you do it. The reason why I trust that when it hits, it's going to hit well is because you are creating those spaces for identity and understanding and distinction here in the places where folks maybe aren't paying all the attention that they should be, but the folks who are paying attention know. And like, that is what I think so many of us, particularly as Black creators, are coming to that understanding. It's going to be us. We are going to have to be the ones that bring us forward, because other folks, their attention's going to wax and wane with whatever Twitter tells them. And there are going to be reasonable, real things to pay attention to. There are going to be other folks who need attention, who need spotlight, who need cause. But like, we're going to have to provide our own consistency. And there are going to be other allies who join in that support too. And I believe in that. But I really think that focus is going to be how how do we put ourselves on, and how do we value ourselves enough to be willing to invest that time and that energy? And you've obviously been doing that for a minute, because otherwise, how would I have seen you at TGS?
Man, Josh, I really want to keep this discussion going, but man, we're about to hit, I don't know, like, right. Yeah. We the show's gone longer than the hour mark than usually do, but this is the end of the year show. Dude, stuff needed to be said, and it was said. But man, I'm probably gonna have to cap it there. That like it that was beautiful, everything you said. And like you said, I pretty much just agree with everything you said verbatim. It's good. And as much as I said the game industry failed us, to echo what you said, I will not fail me. I will not fail you. I will not fail people who came before me that I could even get any type of recognition. I will not fail the people that come after me. And I'm speaking directly to Black people, just in case anyone's wondering. And pass that to everyone else in gaming as a whole. Just in case that wasn't clear.
Right.
And because, it comes to a point where it's just like, I can let some of the more damaging things in my career path, hold me back, but it's just kind of like, you just can't. And like you said, where, like I said, I have to find those spaces and people that believe in me and that want me there. And then help, propel them, have them propel me and propel myself, because, you just can't wait for a big name to do it. You can't. But, and the thing is, because people are saying, well, why don't you create your own and do your thing? I feel there's an importance in having people like us in those big name spaces.
Real talk.
Because people are just going to listen to you when you're there. That's just the truth of the matter. And hopefully, like, there was a time that I remember back in a couple of years back, I'm going to say circa 2014 to 2016, to where the game industry made a push for white women. And I don't mean women, I mean specifically white women. Specifically white women. And they were champion, they had jobs and stuff. And that, I feel like that's strong, dude, because white women were in the space in a considerable number. It's hard to ignore when people are there. There was white women on both sides. And I feel like Black people collectively as a whole never had that. Mm-hmm. And and I'm just like, and that's great for the white women. I'm happy. Like, go them. But let's be real, to a Black person, to any other marginalized group, all I see is white people. It didn't matter if there was man or woman. A white woman, surprise, surprise to me, is still very much a white person. I know. It turns out, I know, surprising. And so I really want to be on that other side. Like, one of the main reasons I want to be in this industry is to be a force for Black creators, to be like, for lack of a better term, to give them hope that, yes, you can make it. And then have other people make it, to where it's like, oh, look, there's Odell and insert 20 other people. Like, there's so many voices there that, like, it's not a who's who. It's not like I've named the 5 there. And then the sad thing is that there are Black people there that work behind the scenes that you would never know, because, like you said, that you have to be out there. We can't just have Black people working behind the desk, so to speak. And, I want to change that. I want the face of the industry to be a Black face.
Yeah.
And then I want someone out there to be like, I want whatever my group of people that needs to be represented. I want it to get to a point where it's just like, I don't have to weave and wave and point to someone and be like, well, look, yeah, they're that and that. That's cool. Yeah, we done it.
Yeah.
Because truthfully, you don't have to do that with white people. You don't have to. You just don't. You don't have to heave and hoe and, they're just there. They're there.
Yeah.
And until Black people feel welcomed, honestly feel like they can make it, honestly feel like they can just put in the work, not twice as much, not 3 times as much, not, constant algorithm grinding, until we get to this point where a black child in college, high school can just be like, I can just legit put in the work and I'll have a shot. I mean, granted, it won't always work out.
Certainly.
But I don't ever want any person to ever feel like me that they will have to jump through every hoop imaginable to just get a piece of the pie.
Right.
And that's it. I mean, that's it. I mean, I'm Odo Harmon Jr. Find me at Odo Harmon Jr. Full Circle Podcast, FC Podcast 73. Thank you to all the Patreons throughout the year. Anyone who's ever donated anything. I shouted Ryan Fresh out earlier. I'm doing it again. Thank you, Baked Rice, Gabriel Garcia, everyone out there. I love y'all. But real quick, Josh, tell the people where to find you and all that stuff and support you.
Yeah, real talk. Thank you so much. This was a fantastic way to end the year. Please, yeah, you're already following Odell. You're listening to the podcast, but if you're not, go ahead and do it. My name's Josh. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook at Wallstormer. You can find Intelligame at intelligame.us. That's intelligame.us is the webpage. You can find on social media or on Twitch at IntelligameUs. You can also, as I forget to talk about all the time, support Intelligame on Patreon at patreon.com/IntelligameUs. I need to do some work there. I need to show back up there. It's looking a little stale, but I am incredibly thankful to the patrons, the Twitch subscribers, to all the folks out there who believe in what Intelligame is doing and keep up that support month after month. Yeah, it's been a year, and I'm real glad to be able to share it with people who give a damn, like the Intelligamers and like you, Odo.
Yeah. Well, as always, everyone, have a great week. Hope you had the greatest year within reason. Until next time, next year, all that good stuff. We done. We outie. 2020 is over. See y'all in 2021. I'm out.
Drop the mic.